Morning folks, how we doing? Today I'm going to deal with the task of changing out the display on the Roland W-30. I'm going to be changing out the old type display for the new LED backlit type display. Things you're going to need, you're going to need to have watched my previous video on how to take your machine apart, and basically what you need is your main board on the desk, your switchboard complete with the display on your desk as well, ready to go. Obviously you need your new display, you need a soldering iron with a reasonable tip, nice small tip. You're going to need a solder sucker, or if you're lucky enough to own one, a desoldering gun, a couple of phillips screwdrivers, and a hot glue gun, and you're going to need your new display. A bit of background: the reason we change these displays out is on the main board here you have a high voltage inverter circuit which whines. It seems to annoy a lot of people, and I can understand why. Some of them are a lot louder than others. It's an old way of backlighting a display. So basically what you do is you take 5 volts, you run it through a little bistable circuit here with a transistor and a step-up transformer that then pumps out nearly 70 volts AC to what they call an EL panel, or electroluminescent panel, in the back of the old display, and that's what lights it up. It's the transformer that makes the noise. Doesn't matter what you change around it, or how you change it, or why you change it. As those transformers age, they get noisier and noisier. Eventually they get to a point where they're going to annoy the hell out of you. If you haven't got a noisy transformer but you've got a dead backlight, change backlight by all means, and there's a video which covers that further back in my series. But for this one, it's quite noisy, it's quite ear piercing, and it's annoying the hell out of me now. So we're going to change it out for an LED backlit one. This is where I'm buying my displays. Lots of other people seem to. Buydisplay.com. They come in a variation of colours. You can get black on green, which is what we're going to do today. You can get white on blue, you can get black on white, and you can get white on black. Make your choice. They're all sort of around about the $30 mark, so, or 25 pounds sterling. They've all seemed to be quite reliable. I bought probably about 50 of them now for various projects from them of different sizes, and they seem to be pretty good, so I'd recommend them. What we're going to do first is we're going to work on this section of the circuit board here and prepare this board for the new 5 volt LED. You will also need a 100 ohm resistor, 1 watt, in order to current limit the LED that's in here. Otherwise it will just get too bright and burn out after a while. Very important to put that in, but we'll cover that as we go along. Okay. Here's a diagram of the circuitry we're going to be dealing with today. As you can see here, this is the circuitry which feeds the old backlight, which we'll be removing. Basically we're going to be taking 5 volts from here, and we're basically going to be putting it through a 100 ohm resistor and reconnecting it back to this point here so we can reuse the old cable. All the other data cables, etc., are like for like. So pin 1 goes to pin 1, pin 20 goes to pin 20. Or, well, in this case pin 20 isn't connected, but yeah, you get the idea. So you just have to follow the protocol from the old one down to the new one. So this whole process is something that was thought up by another guy. I think his name's Keith Minier. I don't know how to pronounce his second name, but I'm sure he'll forgive me. Off the site called llamamusic.com, and it has a W-30 resource section on it, which is just absolutely invaluable. Also there's some other really good Facebook groups if you do a search for them. W-30 modifications and owners groups, and etc. Again, another wonderful resource, but all of this process is documented on there. I do it slightly differently to the way he does it. But essentially the whole process is the same. I just tend to combine components a little differently to the way he does it. Great resource. Print it off, If you have it, then you can't go wrong. So today, let's get on with this anyway. So I'm going to start by desoldering all the components off this board that we need to take off. They're all in this area here, if you can see. So I'm going to be removing T1, which is your step-up transformer, Q1, which is your bistable circuit transistor, C28, which is a ceramic transistor, ceramic capacitor, C27, which is an electrolytic capacitor, C26, which is a electrolytic capacitor. Down here, D1, I think it's a resistor, but I don't know why it's called D1. The circuit diagram shows it as a resistor, so but why? And then we've got R35 and R34. I won't bore you with watching me desolder everything, so we'll speed this bit up and I'll catch up with you in a minute. Okay, once we've got all the components cleared off the circuit board, what you'll find is that pin 1 there, or pin 3, sorry, pin 3 here connects to that point there. And here, at this point here, on the front side to D1, is where you're going to take your 5 volts from. So what we need to do is we need to link a 100 ohm 1 watt resistor from that point to that point there, so we can reuse the cable that came and we're going to take off the old display. Simple as that. Here you'll also find that that point there, where Keith's instructions say to take the ground, is also connected to there. So I have a suitable 1 watt 100 ohm resistor, which I'm going to put in here, like so. Let's bend their legs to make it suit. think. Let's just check continuity through. So we should now have 100 ohms from this point. To this point. Happy days. So that is effectively everything we need to do on the main board. So what we're now going to do is we're going to move on to the display section, and I'll show you what we need to do there. So here's our switchboard with our display on it, already removed from our machine. What we need to do is remove the display itself from the circuit board. And there should be 4 screws on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember which way up it is. So the larger slot has the data cables going through it. The smaller slot has the backlight cable going through it. Screws to one side, keep them safe, and remove your display. Put your switchboard to one side just so you can get on with it. Now what you can see here is what they've done is when they've soldered these in is they put a plastic piece on there, and that's basically to firm up all the joints so that when you're moving the cables about you're not actually forcing it on the actual soldered joint, or it's providing a bit of support basically. So that's what we're going to use the hot glue gun for later. So when these have been soldered back into the new circuit or into the new display, we'll back it up with some hot glue just to stop it all moving about. What we need to do at this point is to cut all these cables off. This is the ground to the chassis, so cut that off down as low as you can get it because you're going to need that. And then these, basically just trim them off at a suitable point just above that support. And then the backlight's off again, as close to the board as you can get them. So there's your 2 harnesses. Now you need the 2 brackets at either end as well, so those need to come off, but you don't need to unscrew the screws completely on these, you just need to slacken them and then these brackets will come off. Now we have the most single painful part of doing this process, and that is getting this bezel off here without destroying it. Challenging is a word I'd use. I normally start by sticking a screwdriver in this corner and just getting a little bit brutal with it. You're not worried about your old display, so if you can get in there with a screwdriver and break it free, then it should start to come once it's starting to go. Once you can get underneath it, it will go. But it is the worst job out of all of this, and you're just going to have to be brutal. I'm not worried about this old display, so I'm being fairly medieval on it. I would suggest if you wanted to reuse it at any stage that you don't do what I'm doing. But as it goes, I'm not worried. This is going to go in the bin, so unless anyone wants it. The backlight's good, isn't it? The display works, and there's plenty of others kicking them out. So we've now got that off. You need some double-sided tape to stick this back onto the new one. We don't put it on at this point, we put it to one side. Get some isopropyl, clean off all the old adhesive using some kind of solvent. Be careful because this is plastic, so use something gentle. And any marks that you've put in it there, like I've done there with the screwdriver, just get a black marker pen and go back over them just to make sure that the bezel hasn't got any light spots in it anywhere. You will put some scratches in it getting it apart, unfortunately, and you're just going to have to accept that fact. That I don't know what the hell they used to put this on with, but I wish I had some of it. Okay, put that to one side for the minute, because you're not going to need it at this point in time. And now let's compare the old display to the new display. Instantly noticeable difference in height. The LEDs take up a lot more room than the electrical luminescence. It's only a couple of mil in it, if that, but you will notice it when you're on top of your machine. So lay them side by side. We have exactly the same connections, pin 1 through to pin 20. We have an additional 21 and 22 here, which is a copy of the anode and the cathode for the LED down at this end. Keith in his write-up connects here. I find that, yeah, you can, it's not a problem, but this cable won't reach where it needs to reach if you do that. So what I do is I put them back in at this end, but you have to make a slight alteration to the bracket, ever so tiny, because when you put that on there, you'll see that it is dangerously close to those terminals. So all I do is I nip downstairs, get a file, and just file out that section in there, which gives it enough clearance, and we're all happy and all golden. Right, just so I can show you what I've done. Here's the original, yeah, which when it goes on you can see how close it is to the anode and the cathode there. If you can see that, let me zoom in a little bit. So, there you go. See how close it is to the anode and cathode. So all you need to do is just to file out a tiny section there to just give it a little bit more clearance. Whoops, upside down. Just give it a bit more clearance. Can you see? There, we've definitely got a gap. So we're not going to have any electrical problems there, are we? So I've prepared all my harnesses. So the backlight, the chassis ground, and the main harness, just stripped back about 3 mil, and now we've got to get into the job of soldering it all up. So again, I'll see you in 5 minutes. On the harness itself here, you'll find there's one black cable. That is number 2 on here, and below that will be number 4, and then number 6, and then number 8, etc. and follow that. And on the other side you'll find there's one that's empty, that is number 1, below that is number 3. If you follow that down, number 9, just connect it in. It makes no difference, there's no connection at the main motherboard for it, you don't end up with a piece of cable floating around inside your machine. And there is no number 20 at all. As I've said before, Keith says to put 20 and 22, 21 and 22 into here for your anode and your cathode. That in reality makes this too short, so I put it in where it originally was, which makes it reach to where it needs to reach, hence the reason we do this little modification to the bracket. So I'm going to crack on the solder on, and I'll speed this bit up for you. Now for the backlight. So when we solder the backlight in, right, cathode is cold. Yeah? Always cathode cold, which in this case is going to be the white. Okay, white to K, black to A. Yeah. So that's the positive and the negative for the backlight. Now before we move on, make sure the solder's gone all the way through. Check you haven't got any bleed over or any little tags where you're shorting anything out. And you should, in theory, have then filled all of the terminals from 1 through to 19 on this side, and you should have a black and white on that side. And they should all correspond to this plug on the basis that number 2 is a black wire. And number 19 is on the bottom on its own, at the opposite end of the plug. Number 19 is at the opposite end of the plug to where the black is on the other side. Yeah. Check, double check, triple check. Very important at this point. Okay, so wiring's all done. Now we're going to put our brackets on, and we're going to hot glue up the wiring. This is just, you may be able to get away without doing this, but I just prefer to do it just purely because it gives the wires a little bit more boundary, if that makes sense. Just sort of squeeze it in between all the cables. It doesn't matter. It's just purely going on just to give a bit of extra support to the cables. See that? So all I've done is I've put some hot glue around the bases of there. If I ever had to peel it off, it'd be easy enough. It's not too much of a drama. But what that does is it just helps to give that a little bit of extra support. So as your cables are moving around, they're not getting strained at the solder joint. So what we need to do now is to put our brackets back on. We'll put the modified one at this end. And the non-modified one back at this end. So let's put it back in to here. So remember, large hole is where the data cables go. Make sure you get that little ground lead through, don't trap that. And then this end, the new cables, or the backlight cables. Wobble it about till we find the holes, which are in there somewhere. Like that, see? Schoolboy error. Put the brackets on upside down. Okay, well there you go, job done. Display back in. Don't forget to seal that off. What I tend to do now is I tend to put my double-sided sticky tape on here now, and then once it's all assembled, then you can peel off the backing and stick down the bezel once this is inside the main frame. So I'm going to reassemble and then we'll have the moment of truth and we'll see what happens. Okay. So as you can see, double-sided tape already applied. So now we need to put this back onto here. Make sure it's down, make sure it's lined up, make sure the potentiometer is going through the slot. Yeah. And make sure it's pretty much where it needs to be. Because you're not going to be able to align it like you used to, because you've got no bezel on the front. Okay. Just try and use the old screw marks. That would be my best bet. So if you can see where there used to be a screw, you should be golden. Now let's put our bezel on. I'm using automotive tape and it's the most fiddly stuff to get started. Once you can get it going, it's finding a tiny little piece that will come up. Yeah. It can just be a bit of a pain, this stuff. Once you've got it, it's fine. So, when the bezel goes on, narrow a bit to the top. Yeah, like so. Line it up, drop it in the hole, press it down. Job done. You can see it sits a tiny little bit higher up, but we can live with that. After on this side, put your volume knob back on. There you go. What I'll do now is I'll put the rest of the machine back together, speed that process up, and then we'll have the moment of truth. Okay, moment of truth, people. It's all back together. Let's turn it on and see what happens. Ooh. Working on that. Right, bit of a contrast issue, hopefully. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Look. Turn the contrast down and we're good. Please insert system disk. Success. Bright green. Perfect. All good, all going. Yeah, got noise, got everything, that's good. Okay, hope that demystifies the display change for everyone. All the links to the various places to get the components, etc., etc. will be in the description. Have fun, we'll speak to you again.